Check.
Check, check, 1, 2, check, 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 check.
I'm now calling to order a regular meeting of City Council, Tuesday, March 25th at 7 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Council President Rogancy.
Here.
Council Vice President McGee.
Here.
Council Assistant Secretary Dwyer.
Here.
Councilman Boyke.
Present.
Councilman Noonan.
Present.
Councilman Lafferty.
Present.
Councilwoman Moore. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is adoption of the agenda. So moved.
Point of order, the consent agenda?
What did I say?
The
Consent.
agenda.
Oh, consent agenda, sorry.
So moved or support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Number 5, adoption of the agenda. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. First off, we are removing 13E and F. We are adding as item 13I, purchase of 7 2025 road rescue ambulance from DDA Construction Bond Fund proceeds, bond resolution amendment. We're also adding as item 12A1, and Mr. Schroeder, could you word what that is, please?
12A1 would be authorization to amend the fee resolution to establish a $5,000 annual fee for adult use retailers.
Thank you. Also, we are adding a presentation that will take place after, first off, we're moving 9A, which is a presentation, right after 7D, and immediately following 9A, we are having a presentation regarding item 12A.
Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 6A, calendar of pending matters. Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 7A, approval of the bills of the general revenue funds. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 7B, approval of the bills of the water and sewer systems. So moved.
Support Dwyer.
Discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is the general fund revenue report for January 2025, or motion to receive and file with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Mr. Fox, you don't have to get up, I'm just gonna ask you to do something. If I would like to see a revenue report for budget time of all rentals received by the city. If you could have that. Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is approval, is a general fund expenditure report as of January 2025. Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item was going to be 9A. Police Officer Brooklier is not here yet, so I'd ask us to suspend the rules, and we'll do that after the presentation.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Support.
Support.
Rules are suspended.
Next item is presentation regarding 12A.
It's okay. Is it up? I can't see it.
She's got it up.
There it is.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Jeff Schroeder. I am the City Council's Special Legal Counsel. I'm making this presentation not just as Council's legal attorney tonight, but I've been working with Andrea Pike. Is she here? Andrea Pike.
Over to the left.
All right. Hello, Andrea. Andrea Pike has been representing the City of Warren since 2019 in a marijuana lawsuit against the city and the taxpayers of Warren. Also, Mary Michaels, she's the acting city attorney. She has been working in the law department here in Warren for probably 30 years. She's on board with this presentation and explaining why we're recommending item 13A.
Next
As you-
slide.
Yes. There's been a lawsuit against the city that's been going on for probably 5.5 years. The lawsuit is called Pine Brook Warren versus the City of Warren. It was over the marijuana licenses that were granted in 2019 by 2 city councils ago. So it wasn't this city council, it wasn't the council from 2019 to 2023, it was the council elected in 2015 that took the action in 2019. And as luck has it, none of those council members are here today. So these are all past council members. In fact, the past mayor were involved in awarding 15 marijuana licenses in 2019. This happened after 2018 when marijuana was on the ballot statewide. It was approved in the city of Warren by 59% of the vote by the voters in Warren. The prior council took that as a sign that they wanted to move forward with marijuana licenses. So they started with 15 medical marijuana provisioning centers. Provisioning centers are like dispensaries where you would go purchase marijuana, but you needed a medical card. The city, the way it was set up by the prior council, they created a committee. It was called the Marijuana Review Committee. It included several council members. It included the mayor's public service director, and these folks had closed-door meetings, not in public like we are today, explaining to everybody what we're doing. They had closed-door meetings where they decided who were the winners and who were the losers. There were over 60 applications in the city for a marijuana license. They picked 15 winners. As you can imagine, when there's 15 winners and 50-some losers, the losers get upset. And many of them banded together to file a lawsuit. The lawsuit was filed, and Judge Carl Marlinga, who's been retired for several years now, who first heard this case, he voided those licenses. He said that marijuana committee violated the Michigan Open Meetings Act because they met in secret behind closed doors and made a decision that wasn't in public. In fact, I've talked to people who wanted to attend these meetings. They were shut out of the meeting and told to sit in the hallway while this committee made its deliberation. As a result of that, there were eventually 30 marijuana businesses involved in this lawsuit against the city. The 15 that were awarded a license wanted to undo this action of voiding their license, and then the 15 who were suing to undo what the city did behind closed doors. This case has cost millions of dollars in legal fees since 2019. The lawyers have made a lot of money. It's gone all the way to the Michigan Supreme Court and back, and right now it's sitting in the Supreme Court, and the Circuit Court is having hearings. Since this started, when this started, the city was responsible for the first $500,000 of its legal fees. Since 2019, the insurance for the city has changed. Any new lawsuit, the city is now responsible for the first $1.5 million in legal fees. in part because of the city's litigation history. So this has been going on and on and on. Next slide. I am somebody who is proud to have started my career here in Warren in the law department right out of law school. And one of the jobs I had was prosecuting marijuana violations. And I used to get 20 or 30 a week. They would come to my desk, and society has changed a lot since then, and I'm not here to comment on that, but as part of that, I saw the city getting sued from time to time. And when this marijuana laws were adopted in 2018, we know a lot of cities have been sued by marijuana businesses, and I have a partial list here from A to Y, from Alpena to Ypsilanti. There may actually be a city that's been sued that's a Z, but we know that all of these cities here, you've recognized the names of most of these communities, have been sued by marijuana businesses. And why are these marijuana businesses suing the cities? It's because the cities are setting up this scheme where they're picking the winners and the losers. And the losers sue the city, they attack the process, and they want a license too. And again, it's cost a lot of money here in Warren, especially you know, the length of time that has passed. Next slide, please. So I just want to let you know there have been many attempts to get rid of this lawsuit. Many attempts. First of all, Judge Carl Marlinga, you may recognize the name. He was Macomb County's prosecutor for many years. He got elected circuit judge, and he's very well respected in legal circles. And he first was assigned this case, and he's the one that ruled that the city of Warren violated the Open Meetings Act in issuing these licenses. And Judge Marlinga, interestingly, was eventually upheld by the Michigan Supreme Court long after he retired. The Michigan Supreme Court said, Judge Marlinga, you're right. This was a violation of the Open Meetings Act to do this behind closed doors. Judge Marlinga brought together all 30 parties, all the lawyers, even council members, put us all in a room, sat us down, Ms. Pike was there, and tried to see if we could settle this case. He even appointed Judge Peter Massaroni, who was the longtime, well-respected chief judge of the Macomb County Circuit Court. He served on the court for a long time. He has had an A+ rating from the lawyers as a judge, brought him in to mediate the case after he was retired. Judge Massaroni couldn't get that done despite his best efforts because he couldn't get all of these, it's called herding cats, trying to get everybody on the same page. But everybody has a different interest. Judge Marlinga, since he started, has retired, and he's run for Congress twice since this is how long this case has been going on. Judge Peter Massaroni passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. In 2020, the city council attempted to settle it, to get rid of this case, but there were political efforts, there were emails, there were phone calls. The thing died. 2022, the city council attempted to settle it again, get rid of this case. We're tired of it. It's costing us a lot of money. It's distracting your council from doing their job and focusing on other things in the city. Had it settled? Boom. Another collateral attack, that was stopped. Since 2022, with Ms. Pike, with some council members, we've had dozens of meetings, Zoom calls, written proposals. We really need 30 parties to agree to settle this lawsuit. And when I first started in the city, as I mentioned earlier, in 2001, the city at that time was involved in a lawsuit that started in 1986. It was a Department of Justice sued the city in 1986. It went to 2003. Some people have been around the city a long time. I remember that. I know Mr. Fox remembers that. That cost the city, I don't know how many millions in legal fees, and this was before all this inflation, right? So it was millions of dollars from 1986 to 2003, and the thing finally settled. And everybody was trying to settle that case, but all it did was cost the city money, and at the end of the day, there was a settlement, and you know, could have been done in probably 10 minutes if people weren't trying to drag this out for 17 years. So what are we trying to do here? The city council a couple of weeks ago posted publicly that it's interested in passing a marijuana ordinance. It's an attempt to get rid of these cases, to limit the amount of retail facilities in the city by zoning. So if we go to the next slide, the proposal is to adopt an ordinance that limits marijuana retail facilities by zoning. What does that mean? That means the city has zoning rules, and if your property is outside those zoning classifications and those buffers, you cannot put a marijuana retail facility there. So what do we have? We have an ordinance that was passed in 2019 after 2 public hearings. This isn't anything new. This zoning map was done in 2019, so 5 or 6 years ago. And this is a map of the city showing the green areas that fit the zoning. So that means it's industrial property, M1, M2, M3, or M4, and it has to be 1,000 feet from a school or a school park, 500 feet from a residential lot line, 500 feet from a church or a religious institution, 500 feet from a planned unit development, and 500 feet from a park or library. And so we're left with this map, and you can see that it's in very limited areas. You can see Groesbeck is an area where there's a lot of green. I'd like to point out that, you know, in studying this map and talking to council members who study this map, there are some big green spots on this map that you're never going to have any marijuana retail facilities. If you can look in the south central part of the city, there's a big green strip there along Mountain Road that was known as the Chrysler stamping plant. I think it's FCA stamping plant. I don't think the automotive, they're going to shut down the stamping plant to open up a marijuana facility. So that's not likely to locate any marijuana retailers. If you go up Mountain Road, you can see the big green shaded area where the TACOM is. That's our U.S. Army Tank Command. I don't think the Army is going to be interested in getting a license to sell marijuana in their commissary at TACOM. So we're left with the other green areas where they would be allowed. So it's limited by zoning. It's not completely unlimited. So we wanted to get that across to everybody. So if you've been told that it's unlimited, that it can go anywhere in your neighborhood, you were misinformed. But in today's climate, it's not that surprising that something like that could happen. So limited by zoning is what the proposal is. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, because as I showed on the one of the previous slides, all those cities that have been sued, Ms. Pike and I studied the dozens and dozens of lawsuits in Michigan, and we tried to figure out what gets a community sued and what ends the lawsuits. And there has never been a city successfully sued in Michigan that did a retail marijuana facility by zoning. This isn't a place where these council members or the mayor or some high-ranking official is going to go behind closed doors and pick the winners and losers. Next slide. We also want to point out that there already are, now you may not know this, it surprised me a little bit, there already are over 100 locations and 177 active state licenses as of today. I went on to what's called the Cannabis Regulatory Agency website today. Anyone in the public can go to this website and see what are the licensed marijuana facilities in your community. 177 licenses in Warren. None of these there's no dispensaries, none. This is growers, processors, secure transporters, safety compliance labs, and there's one more. What did I forget? But yeah, those are the 4. So 100 locations, and guess what? That map, go back to 5. We go back to the previous slide. A lot of these facilities are already located in these green areas. They're already here, and they've been here. And they're just not retail. They're growing, processing, transporting, and testing the product. So back to 6. This does not even include caregivers. This doesn't even include medical licenses. So the city already has a lot of marijuana facilities that you may not be aware of, but the city strategically put them in industrial zones and areas that are not close to residential. Next slide. Here's an example of one such facility. It's an industrial area. It's way set back from the road. It's maintained. You might not even know what's going on in there. It's a marijuana facility. So it does impact city revenues. The city gets $5,000 per location. So with 100 locations, the city gets $500,000 a year approximately in license fees. Also, since this started, again, I go back to my time when I started in Warren in 2001, and we were having a problem with the automotive industry that took a hit from, you know, the September 11th, 2001, all the way through the Great Recession, 2008, 2009. the city had all of these tool and die shops, these old industrial buildings that used to support the automotive industry. And these facilities were dying, and nobody was occupying them, and a lot of them were abandoned. And, you know, I might not give much credit to the prior mayor, and he and I are friends, kind of. And the idea that we were going to get these industrial buildings with people paying taxes and keeping it up was something, nobody had an idea. How are we going to replace all these automotive suppliers? And frankly, a lot of these marijuana businesses have filled it up. And since 2018, thanks to the work of Mr. Fox's office, we know that $100 million in taxable value in our industrial properties has gone up. So since 2018, a $100 million increase in taxable value of these facilities. So that means they're paying higher property taxes because their value went up. The assessor came in. Everybody loves when the assessor comes and notes all your improvements and notes that your property value went up, because that means your tax bill's going up. That's what happened to these people and these businesses, and they're paying the bill. And $100 million in taxable value, this is money for your city, for your schools, and so on and so forth. So on to the next. When we talk about marijuana retailers, you know, this is not the Wild West or anything like that. You know, first, I just want to say one thing. If you're opposed to marijuana and you don't want it in your community, I absolutely, totally respect that. And I certainly think that there's room for those opinions, and I sympathize with it. I used to prosecute marijuana violations. But we're in a situation that was created many years ago, and we're trying to find a way out of it, being as creative as we can, trying to have the least impact on the neighborhoods and the most impact we can in a positive way on the city finances. So for these retailers, they have a 120-page rule book that the state requires them to follow. It is rule after rule after rule. And for example, I'm just putting some of the rules so you get an idea. You have to be 21 years of age or over even to enter the facility. Every facility needs security cameras covering every square inch of that facility except for the bathrooms, and also a 20-foot radius around the building in your parking lot. If you're up against an alley, a 20-foot radius around the whole building. And the state comes and they inspect your cameras. They make sure they're working. If they're not covering everything, they make you buy more cameras or adjust the cameras. And they make you keep 30 days of recordings. You have to have 30 days of recordings available, so if someone says something happened 2 weeks ago, you have to pull up that camera and show them what happened. In fact, a lot of security cameras from these places have helped solve crimes, because the cameras are rolling at night and a criminal rolls into the parking lot and commits a crime. They have no idea that they're in a parking lot of a place that's required to record. All product in and out of the facility is tracked by Metric. It's a state contractor that tracks all the product in and out of the facility. Anyone who's an owner of that facility that owns over 10%, anyone who's a manager who runs the facility has to be pre-qualified by the state of Michigan. They need to pass a criminal background check. If it's medical, they need to get fingerprinted. They look at their tax history, their lawsuit history, their lien history. If they've ever lost a license because of fraud, it's a complete thorough background check by the state. Also, these facilities have to submit their books to the state to review their books. It's called an annual financial statement, and they go through their books to make sure they're not laundering money, to make sure they're following the rules. They have to have floor plans, security plans, staffing plans, all reviewed and approved by the state of Michigan. They have strict rules regarding waste disposal, so if they have marijuana waste, they're not just throwing it in the garbage and some animal can get into it and get sick, or God forbid a thief come in and take marijuana waste and steal it. There are also odor violations. You know, if there's local community gives them an odor violation, it has to be reported to the Cannabis Regulatory Agency. One point on odor, because this has come up. If you're here because you're concerned about odor, it's usually the culprit is what is called a grower facility, a marijuana grower. That's where they grow the plants indoors. Some places outdoors, but not in Warren. There's no outdoor grows. They're all indoors. And the owners of these facilities and the managers don't have the proper filtration, and it creates that smell when the plant is growing. The adult use retailers, the dispensaries, generally and almost never create an odor outside of the building unless there's growing going on in a grow operation on site. So this is very unlikely to increase any odors. And I do know that the council is working on a plan now. Councilman Boyke, Councilwoman Moore have a plan to increase the enforcement of these odors at these facilities, and also the neighborhood grows. There's a creative way that we're going to try to tackle that. That's not what we're dealing with tonight, but it's something that the council is aware of. Also, these facilities have to pay a $15,000 license fee to the state, and if every year, $15,000, it changes a bit from year to year, and $5,000 per city license. And also, just so you know, the facilities can be visited any time by our Warren Police Department. They sign a document that says, in order to get a license, they will allow the police department at any time to come in and inspect their facility. They don't need a warrant. They don't need to go to a judge. All they have to do is show up, show their badge, and they are welcome to come in and are, by law, allowed to come in and inspect the facility. The Cannabis Regulatory Agency has hired former retired police officers, known as regulation agents, that are assigned to the area, and they come and they regularly visit the facilities. They know these dispensary owners, they know the managers, and they make frequent visits and annual inspections. And believe me, if there's a problem, they show up. If there's a metric entry, for example, there's purchase limits. If there's an entry showing someone purchased more than they're allowed under the state law, I know of a situation within 20 minutes, the regulation agent was there saying, what's going on here? It turned out to be a clerical error, but these facilities are being watched. Next slide. So it might be interesting to note that we have the city of Centerline right in the middle of Warren. We have the map there. And if you're a Warren or Centerline resident, you're very familiar with this. Centerline is 1.7 square miles. Warren is 34.3 square miles. Centerline has, for a number of years, had 11 dispensaries. They're only 1.7 square miles. They have 11 dispensaries there. And again, Centerline did it their own way. They did it industrial property, and it has to be, instead of 500 feet, they have a 400-foot rule from a lot of different sensitive uses. This year, Centerline received a check for $640,000 for their 2024 activities for their marijuana retailers. So for each retailer in your community, you get a check from the State Department of Treasury. When you go to a dispensary, or anybody goes to a dispensary, and you make a purchase, there's the 6% sales tax, but there's also a 9% excise tax. That excise tax is taken by our Treasury Department, and they divide it up among the communities that have facilities. And in 2024, it was $58,000 per license. Centerline, this community, much smaller than Warren, had a check for $640,000. This is in addition to $5,000 per location for their license fees, in addition to the additional property tax revenue. Also interesting to note that Centerline allows up to 15 retailers, and there's still 4 spots open in Centerline. And they haven't, right now it's 11. So just to give you an idea, and it's not surprising to know that maybe some of the Centerline facilities and Madison Heights and all around, they don't want this to pass. They don't want this to come through because it's competition for them. So, and I understand that and I appreciate that. It's a free country and they're allowed to say what they feel about this. But we also feel that we're here to explain why the lawyers who've had enough of this lawsuit are trying to find a way out of this and find a way to possibly end this litigation and move on instead of being stuck in this, and the taxpayers are paid the legal bills. So in conclusion, we're aware of a misinformation campaign. If you've received flyers telling you something different than what you've heard here tonight, be advised there is a dark money PAC. A dark money PAC is something that the U.S. Supreme Court allows, where corporate money and corporate interests and private interests can donate anonymously to an organization, and they can spend an unlimited, here's the word, unlimited amount of money without reporting it to the Secretary of State, without reporting it to the city, no reporting requirements. Whoever's funding it, they can write as big a check as they want and send out whatever information they want. They're not held to any truth standard. They can say whatever they want. Okay, it's a free country, First Amendment, I get it. But we just wanted to make you aware, I do at least, that it's a nonprofit corporation, but it's a nonprofit corporation for the benefit of those individuals who are donating money. They don't operate in Warren. They're not for the benefit of Warren businesses, Warren taxpayers, Warren homeowners, Warren children, or anybody else. They're for the benefit of their own business, and so take that information for what it's worth. So we've seen these scare tactics used in other communities. I certainly wouldn't want to, as someone who's worked in and about this city, lived here, want to recommend something that's going to hurt the neighborhoods, hurt the community. But what I do want to do is find a way out of this. Would this be my first, second, third, fourth, or fifth option? No. But this has been going on way too long, and somebody had to stand up, and I thank Andrea Pike, I thank Acting City Attorney Mary Michaels for getting together and proposing something, whereas it might not be ideal. It is the only way we see out of this, and there are certain people that want this, they want this lawsuit to go on, like that Justice Department lawsuit that went on for 17 years. In fact, if I owned one in Centerline, I'd want this to go on for 27 years. So that's where we are right now. I can answer any questions council may have, and Ms. Pike is also available for comment if necessary. I know she's in the corner, so thank you.
Thank you.
And I mentioned earlier, the adult use marijuana passed 59% of the vote in 2018 when it was on the ballot in Warren. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schroeder. Next item.
Next item is Officer Brooklier here. Great. Excuse me, I'm going to go down here. Everyone, this is Officer Jacob Brooklier. One of Warren's finest. This is a resolution for Officer Brooklier for his heroic actions. Whereas the Warren City Council takes great pride in recognizing the selfless and heroic actions of its public servants who go above and beyond the call of duty to protect and serve the community. And whereas on the evening of March 1st, 2025, Warren Police Rookie Officer Jacob Brooklier was at the Town Place Suites Hotel conducting an interview related to an unrelated incident when he received a 911 dispatch call regarding a 12-year-old child who was reported as non-responsive in the hotel pool. And whereas Officer Brooklier immediately ceased his interview and rushed to the pool area where he found the child unresponsive, not breathing, and with no chest movement. And whereas, without hesitation, Officer Brooklier took decisive action by initiating CPR in the child, administering chest compressions for 2 minutes, and successfully restoring the child's breathing. And whereas, amidst panicked bystanders, Officer Brooklier demonstrated exemplary composure and professionalism in executing life-saving measures while awaiting the arrival of the Warren Fire Department personnel, some more of our heroes, who provided additional medical assistance. And whereas, thanks to Officer Brooklier's swift response and the coordinated efforts of the Warren Fire Department and fellow police officers, the child was promptly transported to Henry Ford Macomb Oakland Hospital, where he was initially listed in critical condition, but has since made a full recovery. And whereas Officer Jacob Brooklier's quick thinking, dedication, and heroic efforts reflect the highest standards of service, bravery, and commitment to the safety and well-being of the citizens of Warren, and now therefore be it resolved that the Warren City Council hereby recognizes and commends Officer Jacob Brooklier for his extraordinary act of heroism, courage, and service to the community, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Officer Jacob Brooklier as a token of appreciation and gratitude from the Warren City Council for his outstanding actions in saving a life. Thank you.
All in favor? Anyone have any announcements while we wait for Secretary Moore to return? Yes, I know you do. Anyone else have any? No.
I have an announcement.
Mr. Noonan.
Last Monday and Tuesday, a week ago, I was in Lansing for the Michigan Municipal League CapCon 2025, and just a quick report. We heard a lot about legislative updates, the roads, about $3 billion is going to go to road if the State House has its way. And we got to meet with our legislators. We learned about new ways to use tax increment financing for Michigan brownfield redevelopment for more housing, affordable housing. Let's see. And I got to meet a lot of the people who work with the Michigan Municipal League. They have a lot of expertise, which our city often relies on, and that we can rely on, and to do a better job. So I'm going to keep it pretty quick. I'm going to finish with that, but I have like a 3-page thing here where I could go on and on about. But anyways, it was a really great conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I jumped around. We were not on announcements, so thank you, Mr. Noonan. We will come back to announcements in a few moments. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask. We are moving on to audience. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Angela, chair of this meeting. Want to remind folks that if they want to address City Council this evening, they can pick up an audience form to the left. You can pick up a general form or an agenda form or both. The agenda form, audience form, is for agenda items only. If you have other topics, you're concerned about a road in your street or miscellaneous topics, you can speak at the end of the meeting. Everyone is given 3 minutes. If your name and address is not listed on the audience form, you have to list it at the podium for the public record. There are a lot of new folks here. We have a 3-minute timer in front. If you need accommodations because you can't see, or you want me to give you a warning, I can count you down. But typically I allow folks to speak their 3 minutes and then I tell them to wrap up. If you need that, please, when you are called up, let us know and I'm happy to count you down. Also, I know that a lot of folks are likely upset, happy, sad about what has transpired or what we're voting on this evening. And I just want to remind folks that we have rules and that there are members of the audience shall not interrupt, heckle, or jeer speakers at the podium. So if folks are speaking, please give them their 3 minutes. They're entitled to it. You also, we ask that you respect council here. There's no name calling, there's no cursing. We are also your neighbors, and so we ask for respect and decorum when you come up. So without further ado, I will call up the first person. It looks like Barbara Cerda. I don't know if I'm saying the last name correctly, C-E-R-D-A. After her is Lori Harris.
Good evening. I'd like to vocalize my opinion about this resolution that would allow unlimited dispensaries in Warren. I understand that it's being regulated and there's all these rules, and which is a good thing, as it should be. And I understand that there's a lot of revenue sources coming in from this activity, and that's wonderful and that's great too. But you also have to take into consideration what the residents of Warren want. And personally, I don't want unlimited dispensaries here. I already read an article about a theft, someone breaking into one of the dispensary facilities. I feel like it's going to, you don't see other more upscale communities approving unlimited facilities in their communities, and there's a reason for that. I think it draws crowds that we don't really want in our community. And if you're looking for additional revenue sources, then maybe I think you should collaborate with the executive office and the finance office and look for ways to increase revenue in other ways or decrease costs in other ways. That is why you got elected. That is why the people in the executive office are getting paid salaries so that they can work on these kind of issues, as opposed to, you know, oh, it's easy. Let's just open up unlimited dispensaries, easy money, you know. So I am asking politely that you reconsider. I know you've already done one vote, but I'm hoping that the community will vocalize and stand up and voice their concerns and encourage you to stop the passing of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. So I also just want to remind people that it's a business meeting, so that applause and cheering, while I know you all are excited and I appreciate that, we ask you to keep that to yourself. Thank you.
Before I start, don't start the clock. The screens out here are also the clock. That's usually not what happens.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah. All right. My name is Lori Harris. I've been involved with City Council or coming to meetings for several years, and I've been around for all of this marijuana stuff, and I don't support unlimited dispensaries. While I understand why this is being recommended, and I would like to see a solution to this also. I don't support it. As a nurse, I've said before that it's not a harmless drug, and we are allowing more and more of that into the community. I also wanted to speak about the amount of money that these companies have spent just to send you postcards. So to all my neighbors who got all these flyers, I think that's probably about $50,000. So that isn't because they care about the neighborhood. It's not because they care about the schools, the kids. Mr. Schroeder said it very well. It's because they want to protect their other businesses. They don't want competition. And competition is part of life. And I'm really disappointed, you know, when they get up and speak, or their attorneys get up and speak, they're gonna turn around and leave. They're not here for the community to care about what's going on in the community. And I do applaud everyone that's come, all the residents, people that are concerned. Thank you for coming. And make sure to pay attention and come back for other issues that concern you in our neighborhoods. One of the other concerns that I've shared is that in the planning and zoning process, some of these grow operations or other facilities have sued the city if they don't get their way to change their zoning. So that's something we can watch for in the zoning meetings when they want to decrease their zoning from 500 to 440 or 404, or from 1,000 to 600, 1,000 feet to 600 feet. We need to pay attention as residents. So I would like to also thank Cecil St. Pierre, Ron Papandrea, and Ethan Vinson for setting up this great opportunity for the marijuana growers to come here and show us how much they care about their profit and not the people. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question. Michelle Bishop, it looks like your topic, are you here for an agenda? No, okay, thank you. Got it, thank you. Thank you, okay. Thank you. Next is Joey D.
Good evening, Council. Joey D., longtime Warren resident. Listen, I have a kind of a unique perspective on this. I personally think any person who doesn't have a severe medical condition should be in prison for smoking pot. But I also understand the perspective of this ordinance and the situation that 2 councils ago put the city in. So does everybody here want their taxes to go through this, just unlimited taxes, because the city's gonna have to keep paying for these lawsuits. This lawsuit could end up being astronomical. Nobody's taking that into consideration. Me personally, I can't stand this stuff, and like I said, if it's not for a serious medical condition, if you're a pothead, you should be in prison as far as I'm concerned. But the next thing is, the people who sent these out, whoever sent these out should be prosecuted. Because I would be willing to bet money they didn't get permission from the parents of the little girl on this flyer to reproduce this photograph and use it in this manner. These people, they're sick, disgusting individuals, and I bet most of them live in towns that don't even allow pot. But they got their pot shops all over the Metro Detroit. They don't care nothing about anybody that lives in the city of Warren. They're just worried about the almighty dollar. Forget the people who live here, because they're going to go home to West Bloomfield, you know, Farmington Hills, all the places that don't allow pot, period. They could care less about any of you people or any of the people sitting out here that live here that have to deal with it on a daily basis. Yeah. The crime, everywhere you go that has pot shops, crime has gone up astronomically. But it's something we'll have to deal with. Luckily, we have awesome cops. As you've seen when the dispensary on DeQuinder got robbed the other night, they were right on top of it. So luckily, we have some of Michigan's finest to take care of that stuff. One other thing I wanted to ask about, and I'm sure nobody can respond to this. I noticed on the agenda, back on here, 13A, I noticed it's still on here, and it's still on here in the same form. We're selling pieces of property for $500. And I think it was Ms. Rogetz asked about it at the last council meeting. But yet it's still on here the same way. I can bet you there's not a piece of property in the city that's only valued at $500. So on top of giving away money on lawsuits, now we're in the business of giving away property, taxpayer money in the form of property. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tom Wells, and after that, next on deck is Joseph Taglavia. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly.
Thank you, Council. I've lived in Warren for 45 years. As the nurse mentioned earlier, I think that the marijuana is a gateway drug. I don't feel comfortable with it. Somebody that's made the news media, that's been on one of our major channels here in Detroit, the gentleman mentions that he's got a business on Mound Road. It is a present grow house, and he wants to expand it to be a retail facility also. His retail facility is within 500 feet of the homes on Blackmar. So I hope that there will be some consideration there to not allow his expansion into the retail business. But again, I guess I'm understanding some of this. I appreciate the gentleman giving us the crash course on this evening. But I guess just understand a lot of the residents are still not comfortable with it. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph T-A-G, thank you. If you could pronounce your name for me, that would be super helpful.
Joseph Taglavia.
Thank you.
11203 8 Mile, the hitching post. My reason here is it's about the 13A, the two parcels of property, that I just want to make it clear that I am going to develop them, I hope, for parking, all right? I see for overflow, those lots been sitting there since 1983 when my father purchased the business. They've been sitting empty since 1983. So I did do improvement on the building, and I propose to develop that property for parking. That's all I got to say. I'll be here if any questions.
Thank you. Next is, oops, sorry about that. Next is Vanita Palmieri. And then after Vanita is Mark or Merrick.
Good evening, council, taxpayers of Warren, and all others. My concern here is I may be your newest resident, who I came back to this town to be with you, and maybe council could answer this question. The term unlimited, I know that you briefly stated was fake news or fake whatever we heard, but does this eliminate your lawsuit by using the term unlimited, so those who are involved in this lawsuit will be first in line to get your current proposal of vacancies to make this lawsuit go away? Second question is, the term unlimited, and I'm gonna backpack off the last one. When these facilities want to expand, what is their limit? Is that also unlimited? When these facilities want to go higher, go wider, go behind, and they violate the ordinance of 1,000 feet, 500 feet, where do we go there? The other question I have is the children. There's no other avenue that we as a council or taxpayers can go to get more money, nothing more positive that the city of Warren could bring. What is this gonna cost our police force? What is this going to cost us as taxpayers? What is this going to cost us, period? Our police force does an enormous job, and we are more proud as taxpayers to say I live in the city of Warren because of my police force. Above and beyond. But where does it stop? Why can we not bring any more positive things to the city of Warren without involving the local news, without involving us as your taxpayers, your people who put you where you are? I want more positivity brought to why I came back to this city. I want you all to stand up and involve us as your city and taxpayers and bring this to a vote. Let us have a say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Schroeder, I know we normally have a response at the end, but would you mind clarifying on folks who want to build out a facility, what that process would be?
So certainly we can do that. The zoning restrictions say 1,000 feet from a school or school playground and 500 feet from residential and so forth. If somebody is approved, and again, many of these properties are already approved for growers and processors, they cannot expand into that buffer zone. That is not allowed under the zoning ordinance. Not something they can do. So I would say no to that. In addition, about more positive things, I guess, the prior council made the decision on kickstarting this, and this council sort of inherited it, and we're trying to do the best we can with what we have. And so, I mean, that would be the way I would answer that question.
And then her first question about litigation with the folks that are suing the city.
Right. So the council's been advised. We had a closed session to talk about the litigation today. We can't talk about that because there's open litigation, but Ms. Pike and I and Mary Michaels, the three attorneys that work in a way for the city, are in total agreement that this is the strongest way to end the lawsuit. We feel that it will end the lawsuit. We have a few procedural things to go through, but again, I can't get into more detail than that.
Thank you. Is it Mark? Mark. After Mark is Paul Havern.
Good evening, council. My name is Mark. I live in David area, unfortunately, right next to the big green stripe. And I'm here in opposition of this whole thing because we're already inundated with grow operations. You can't drive out of my neighborhood without getting smacked in the mouth with marijuana. And who's going to enforce this? Realistically, I know what you said. These guys back here are getting their tails handed to them on a daily basis, just run after run after run because we don't have enough.
and then we're gonna put in more things that need policing. How does it make sense? When does it become about the citizens again? I just lost 2 more neighbors. One because she had 2 young children who she didn't want to raise in the smell. Another one unfortunately passed away, and there's nothing to do with the marijuana thing, but he deserves a little recognition. So I'm just wondering, when does it become about the people that own their home and pay taxes? I grew up in Topher and Van Dyke, 1980 something, I'm afraid to say. We were all a community. Mark Steenberg was the mayor. There was no South Warren, there was just Warren, okay? So I'm asking to reconsider. I think everybody here probably owns their home and probably has kind of the same idea. Don't inundate us. We don't need any more pressure. The police don't need any more pressure. Please.
Thank you. Paul, and then Chris Aiello. Paul Havern.
I'm here today to talk about my reasons for why City Council should not approve this proposed change to the marijuana ordinance. And we heard a lot of talk today about why this is justified because of saving the money from lawsuits that the city is experiencing. But this multi-million-dollar lawsuit that the city originally faced, it primarily concerned one thing, the violating of the Open Meetings Act. We had a review committee that was meeting behind closed doors. You want to avoid additional money from a lawsuit, you can have a review committee. That's what the surrounding cities do. You just can't violate the Open Meetings Act when you do it. The solution doesn't have to be to kick it over to zoning and then have a zoning suit. What you can do is have a review committee that complies with the Open Meetings Act and complies with the requirements of the Michigan Marijuana Act. That's what the statute allows for. And I want to talk about how people in this city and in the United States in general, they're going to sue over anything. So I myself have found numerous cases of people suing over zoning ordinances, marijuana zoning ordinances. So you're dreaming if you think that this city isn't going to get additional lawsuits. They're just going to get different lawsuits. That's what will happen. We can still have that review committee. And there's also one solution that is a for sure solution to ending this lawsuit. That would be completely prohibiting the marijuana businesses, which you as a city are allowed to do. The plain language of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act allows you to do it. Sterling Heights does it. Fraser does it. You're allowed to do it. You don't have to have unlimited marijuana facilities, licenses, in order to avoid this problem. I want to stress that for everybody here today because I've looked up the city ordinances myself. Centerline has a process where the applications are reviewed and given to others, and they cap it at 15. Hazel Park caps it at 6. Roseville caps it at 6. Madison Heights caps it at 6. East Point caps it at 4. Detroit caps it at 100. And they all have committees that review the process. As long as that committee complies with the Open Meetings Act and the Michigan Marijuana Act, that's okay. That's what's going to happen. You may have some lawsuit about people who lose, that's right, but you're going to have a lawsuit regardless, even if it's a zoning ordinance. People are going to sue, just as we heard about earlier about people suing about the zoning ordinance. You can look it up yourself. And I want to spend my last little bit about the costs that we've heard about that this city would save. We need to know more about where this city is getting its numbers on justifying this ordinance, because what are the costs of defending a zoning ordinance suit compared to a review committee suit that complies with the Open Meetings Act and complies with the Michigan Marijuana Act? We don't know what that is. All we're looking at right now is a review committee that does not comply at all. So do not approve that ordinance, please.
Thank you. Chris Aiello, and then Michael Stein.
Good evening. My name is Chris Aiello. I'm an attorney on Mound Road. My law firm has participated in lawsuits since 2015 in this industry. My firm is a member of the State Bar of Michigan Marijuana Committee, and all of those cities that were listed on Mr. Schroeder's, on his, whatever you want to call it, is accurate. Those are all of them started with lawsuits. And why? Because they were limited, and because of the quagmire and inside of MRTBA requiring the best applicant to come forward and allowing the city to form a criteria and having applicants meet that criteria. Early on, it was fire trucks and stations, and we'll give you this and we'll give you that. Those days are over, and they have been over for 2 years. Anybody participating now in this industry on behalf of a municipality is unlimited. Everybody's unlimited. And for the folks sitting behind me, I can tell for those that were put up to come here to speak to you, and those that are truly citizens that kind of are on the fringe of marijuana still, which we all respect, but the message that needs to get out to the citizens standing behind me is, you've done it the right way, you did a good job, you've ended a potential nightmare of litigation that will continue to haunt you because of the intricacies in every one of these lawsuits. If you read them, there's still issues outside of the OMA within inside of these 4 courts. It's just not as simple as saying this council gave in to an unlimited number and it's going to ruin this city. That's not true. Folks, if you're listening to me behind me, there is one individual that may have enough guts who has signed in that perpetuated the fraud upon the people being here. All of those leaflets and all of those personal phone numbers that were attached to all of that propaganda, false propaganda, misrepresentations, and lies to those that are not in the industry and don't know the rules or the law. And on behalf of the industry, I apologize to you for you having to come here and read that garbage and rubbish and the fraud that they perpetrated on each and every one of you. And then they threw it back onto this council. Why? The one gentleman accurately portrayed it, greed. Why? Because they have stores in Centerline. 15 stores in Centerline with 1.7 miles, and Warren is 34 miles. Hypocrisy at its best. And so you've done a good job. You've probably fought off a lot of phone calls and a lot of nonsense. So kudos to each and every one of you for being brave enough to uphold democracy
You're at
and
time.
understand what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Michael Stein. After Michael Stein is Stavros Toma.
Thank you, Council. Michael Stein, longtime participant / observer of the war on marijuana saga. Hi, Jeff. How are you? Andrea, nice to see you guys. My question, I had a question. I think you kind of answered it earlier about whether you would actually solve the litigation currently existing by doing this, because I know a lot of those litigants have made clear, that they're seeking damages and attorney's fees. And so I guess you had kind of answered it, but you guys seem pretty confident that this will end that. But I guess that was my first question. And my next kind of question or concern was, has any consideration been given to a fair competitive process, coming from Utica and other ones that were just done? There was a right way to conduct the competitive process, and I know that a lot of the other communities have benefited from the competitive process because the courts have made clear that under the recreational ordinance, you can do merit-based and you can weigh community benefits. And I know that that's been very beneficial to a lot of communities. And under that guise, you'd be able to regulate the amount of facilities that would be, the amount of retail facilities that would be here. I think one of the concerns I think as the industry as a whole has is that things are very tight now. And so having, seeing that how there's 170 some spots potentially that retail could be, obviously it's not that many, but that you could end up with 30, 40, or 50 locations here that makes it very difficult for some of these to operate and actually see a chance of success in being good corporate citizens. So I would ask if consideration would be given to a competitive process where maybe there's a little bit more of a chance for the ones that are selected, that are doing good things for the community, would be able to flourish instead of seeing so many and seeing the detriment that having too many in a city would looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Stavros Toma, then after that is Aaron Geyer.
Good evening, Council. Stavros Toma, 48760 Point Lakeview, Chesterfield. My biggest concern here that I see is on your map, those green spots that you've seen, there's 170 different parcels that potentially can become a marijuana dispensary. These people are gonna rush in. A lot of stores are gonna open. For example, just on 14 in DeQuinder alone, you're gonna have 15 parcels that qualify. And I know people now that are looking to tie up these spots and apply there. I've spoke to several of these litigants to see if this lawsuit could go away, and this lawsuit is not going to go away. They are coming to, they want damages, they want their attorney fees paid. You know, they even plan on filing motions on this situation here. This is not the way to do it. I'm all for cannabis development, responsible cannabis development. You guys can do review committee. You can sub it out to another firm to review these applications for you. A limit on the amount of dispensaries is way better than unlimited. Chesterfield has unlimited, but they set it in the way of buffers, large buffers. Chesterfield now only has 2 operating dispensaries, and their ordinance is unlimited. You can change these buffers. You can go back to zoning, increase these buffers, so there's less locations that qualify, and it'd be more limited. Lafferty said in the news yesterday that he'd be surprised if 10 dispensaries open in Warren. I can guarantee you there's gonna be a lot more than 10, and they're gonna rush in. On 14 in DeQuinder alone, you'll have more than 10. You also said that you would have more than $1 million in revenue a year from cannabis. In order for you to have $1 million in revenue come from this day on cannabis, you would need 20 cannabis dispensaries for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schroeder, can you respond to the competitive process and why that?
Sure. Attorney Stein, well-respected attorney in the cannabis space, who I've known for a long time, and he asked a very good question about would this council consider a competitive process? And I think that the answer was it has been considered. The recommendation is not in favor of a competitive process. I think the public needs to be aware that when there's a competitive process and there's a strict cap on the number of licenses, whoever is put on that committee is going to be lobbied hard. If Mr. Lafferty here were put on the Marijuana Review Committee and he was going to decide who's getting a license, he's going to have dinner invitations, he's going to have hockey tickets, he's going to have a lot of new friends, okay? In fact, the original chairman of the State Marijuana Committee was sent to prison for bribery. Officials across the state have been investigated and indicted for this kind of thing. Now, these officials here wouldn't do that, okay? They want no part of even having anyone try to influence them as to whether who gets a license or who doesn't. Yes, I've heard we could farm it out to some committee. You know how that goes, right? They're going to find a way to get to these people on that committee, and maybe they won't. But guess what? They don't want to waste their time having to field phone calls from people who want to wine and dine them to get a license, period. They just want it to be a process where they're not putting their thumb on the scale, deciding the winners and losers. And as Attorney Aiello said earlier, you get in these situations. I heard Utica got sued a couple times. I heard Utica. Utica's been sued. Look it up in the court records. This particular council, unlike the prior council, didn't want to be the kingmakers and decide the winners and losers in the marijuana industry, because that leads down a very dangerous path. And I know they wouldn't be subject to that, but they don't want the pressure, they don't want the calls. They want to deal with the police department, the fire department, the budget, the parks, the things that they ask people to get them elected to help with. This is something that was put on their lap, not something they wanted. There are different routes to take, And a competitive process inevitably leads to litigation. But it has been considered, and I do appreciate that. And I'm sure there's probably a way to do it where it could be fair, but there's always a loser there, and those losers sue. And if it's not the Open Meetings Act, it's something else. In fact, in Warren, there were a lot of other issues brought up in Warren. It wasn't just the Open Meetings Act. That was the easy way for Judge Marlinga to say, you're done. That was easy for him. There were also questions about the scoring, because they were scoring people from 1 to 10 on different categories, and one of the categories was bankruptcy, 1 to 10. And some people said, have you ever filed bankruptcy? They got a 7 out of 10. Another person said, I never filed bankruptcy. They got a 10 out of 10. Well, what the heck? Judge Marlinga even looked at that and said, what the heck's the difference? Why are you doing that? So, again, we don't want to go down that road. We want to keep it where government officials, elected officials, city officials are not picking the winners and losers. And again, if we could go back, I guess if we could turn the clock back to 2019, we can get into a time machine and go back and call up Sterling Heights and say, wow, what did you guys do right? We might opt out. We might opt out. The council might say, we're not allowing any retail facilities. However, this litigation is existing, and we feel, the legal team feels, unless we do something along these lines, this lawsuit's not going to go away, and there's potential issues for the city. So just to let you in on our thinking on this. Again, this was an inherited problem here, and when you take your oath of office to serve on the council, to be the mayor, to be the attorney, our job is to handle the problems on our desk, whether we like it or not, and that's what's happening here.
Thank you. Mr. Guyer, and then Bob Parsons.
Good evening, council.
If you can speak into your microphone. Thank you.
Good evening, council. My name is Aaron Geyer, and I've been a licensed attorney for almost 40 years. I have an office in Warren, so I know this community.
You're going to have to speak up. It's so hard for us sometimes to hear up here. Sorry.
I've been a licensed attorney for almost 40 years. I have an office in Warren. I am very familiar with this community. I'm a member of the marijuana section of the State Bar Association. And let me tell you, we are not a bunch of Cheech and Chong stoneheads. Now, Mr. Schroeder did a wonderful job of explaining some of the false narrative. Let's continue down that path. People say, not in my neighborhood. Guess what? The establishments don't want to be in neighborhoods. They need the visibility on the main streets. We heard someone say that crime will go up astronomically. That's not the truth. In fact, you'll find that violent crime went down by 4%. Property crime went down by 3% after legalization. They say that marijuana will lead to harsher drug use. That's not true. The National Institute of Drug Abuse said that that's a falsehood. There's no data that supports that conclusion. Some people say, it's not what the residents want. That's not true either. Almost 60% of the voting public in the city of Warren want this. Now, let's keep going. We're going to improve the community. We're going to take your dilapidated buildings and increase the property value. We're going to increase the revenue for this city, $5,000 per licensee, $58,000 per license from excise tax. And here's the kicker. We're going to make your community safer. As Mr. Schroeder pointed out, we're having security cameras that not only focus on us, but focus in the area. And these are high-def cameras that have the ability to even read license plates. So we become a valuable tool for law enforcement. You put it all together, you dispel the rumors, you dispel the false narratives, and the path is clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Parsons, and then Gloria Sanker.
Hello, Council. My name is Bob Parsons, 24305 Eureka, and I understand everything that what everyone's talking about here tonight with what's going on with the marijuana stuff in Warren. The thing is it's not so much as to me as dispensaries and the headache of you're talking about with the lawsuits what Warren's facing. It sounds like Warren's not going to make any money at all. Everyone talks about making a little extra money for the council, for the city, for everything in good use. It sounds like we're going to waste it all on lawsuits. To me, if everyone's really tired of dispensaries or not get more dispensaries in the city, then let's attack the snake. Cut the head of the snake off. Go to the grow shops. For one example, I know 3 of you on the council I emailed this week and talked about just one example is the one on 10 Mile. Now, I know it's been checked out. I don't know if they say, oh, there's no smell, but every time I go past there, I even smell it. I mean, even the one at a facility just right up the street to the right-hand side, used to be National Glass, is a dispensary. You can smell it outside there. I mean, I could go into the Family Dollar and get a contact buzz if I really wanted to stick around for a little while across the street from the one that has the bad filters. Marijuana is a massive outfit. They are growing massively. What I'm trying to think is if we have more dispensaries in the city, only let the grow facilities sponsor the dispensaries in the city, no place else. You walk into these places, there's so much marijuana in there, it is beyond stupid. And then you can't tell me it's just for the city of Warren. And that's just one of them, or 2 of them. We have how many? 9, 10? Plus others, private growers. We really need to focus on how much is going out there. And as far as the smell, like I said, what the community needs to do is if they smell it, they know where they're at, call you guys, call the city, and constantly complain of the smell. Because trust me, it's very expensive to grow marijuana, especially with those filter systems and everything else. One of the guys told me that I knew, I'm not gonna say names, he says those damn things are too expensive. They cycle them, they try to clean them. And you can still smell the stuff. I don't care what anyone says. You can smell the stuff outside the building. Anyone says they don't smell, I'm sorry, you're a liar. So all I can say to everyone is if you're tired of it in the city, target the places, target the grow places, you smell it, call it. There's laws in there to shut them down. Am I right or wrong? If they're breaking the law. If it is, shut them down. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Gloria Sanker, and after Gloria is Diane.
Good evening, Council. Google says that there's already many cannabis dispensaries in the city of Warren. I'm concerned, like others, that children can be affected by mistakenly taking this drug. The marijuana is disguised in gummies and other look-alike treats that can allure children to taking them, not realizing that it's a drug. I think restriction of how many and where located should be your top priority in allowing these pot shops. More taxes is a gain, but it should be weighted against possible danger and harm to innocent children. These are not good-looking and inviting businesses. They will not make Warren a more attractive place to live. Consider greatly what you are doing. Isn't there a great statement that says enough is enough? Let your decision be for the good of the people and not for the good of this business. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane is next, and then after that is Mark B.A. Go ahead.
Good evening. I understand that these places would make some money for us, no kidding, and everybody wants money. But I want to say one thing. I lost a daughter from weed. Weed starts the process, and she ended up dying in my house at the age of 40 years old with heroin. That's not a pretty sight. People, please, think of these kids Think of the future. They are going to lead this country in this future, in Michigan and Warren and everywhere. Think before you do damage. These police officers do one hell of a job here. I don't know how they can do it. But can't we give them a break and not have to do these high-speed chases from Warren to Troy because of a hothead, a pothead? People getting killed. I had a nephew in Virginia hit by a semi-truck. Believe it or not, he's alive, but in crucial. And this person was nothing but a pothead for years. It's got to stop. We got to control it. You guys can do it. We're behind you. And if it's money that you got to do, you're going to hit us with money anyway. So go for it. But do the right thing. Save Warren. Make it safe. Make us proud like we used to be all the time. I've lived here for, I'm 75 years old. I moved here when I was 5. So don't tell me about Warren. I was very proud of it. Still am. An employee of the Kroger store. But I'll guarantee you, I can go into Kroger's and get higher than a kite. I can stand on my back porch. Even me and my dogs are higher than kites. It's all over, people. We got to stop it. And we got to stop it now. Now. And I trust that you people can do it. So please help us. Don't walk away. Don't shun this off. It's not a joke. It's very serious. We don't want them here. Keep them the hell out of Warren.
Thank you. Next is Mark. B ends with a G. Cannot read your writing. On Berry Street. Okay. Mark Abraham is next. After Mark is Florence Jacob.
Hello, board members and the city council. My name is Mark Abraham, 24649 Mound Road. Mr. Schroeder did a great job, kind of stole all my bullet points. I had a really nice, well-organized thought process, but I'm going to go off script a little bit. I'm just going to go back to some of the points that have already been made by other people. Number one would be the fact that Chesterfield is unlimited. Chesterfield is unlimited, and they have very strict zoning requirements, just like we do here in Warren. They have two. They have two with unlimited. We're here today because we originally had a limit, right? Lawsuits started because we had a limit, and the people that weren't given licenses filed a lawsuit against the city that's gone on for 5 years. Having limits isn't the right answer either. It was then, but it's not anymore, because every time somebody loses, they're going to sue. It's true. Mr. Schroeder said it. He's right. Next thing is retail stores. Retail stores and odor, not true. Okay, cannabis cultivation, I can understand a person saying that. If you don't have the right filters, absolutely. But a cannabis retail store, when you walk up to it, it's going to smell more like a cigarette than anything, because people are smoking cigarettes as they walk up to the door of the store. There's no smell coming out of that store. There's a lobby that stops any smell from coming out of it. That's definitely not true. A person got up here earlier and said that they wanted to make sure that businesses, retail, weren't added. My business is on Mound Road. It's 535 feet from a home. That resident behind me used to have a gate that went into my building, went in before I moved there, and it was just a truck stop. And we let him come and go from our facility because he couldn't get his boat through his own gate in his yard. Obviously, I had to stop that from happening because we became a cannabis cultivation facility. We had to delete that gate. But our building is 535 feet from that residence. Let's go over to taxes. Taxes. Our taxes went up from $17,000 to $42,000 in 4 years, simply because we're a cannabis business, no other reason. That's a lot of money for it to go up. I understand it. Next is the child-resistant packaging. Cannabis industry is already moving to use child-resistant packaging. The state of Michigan is passing new laws that are going to mandate it. I brought samples with me for every category in this space. They're all child-resistant. Of course, I promptly forgot them all in my car. Lastly, to the members of the council, you voted unanimously 2 weeks ago to move forward with this ordinance. Tonight is the night to stop this lawsuit that's been inflicting all this pain to this city. The businesses need to be able to participate and compete against our neighbors. Tonight, I'm asking you to vote again, be brave, vote again, and end it tonight. Do not delay this. Vote for it tonight.
You're at time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Florence Jacob, and after Florence is Shannon Summers.
Thank you for letting me speak. I hope that we do get a vote on this. I want to say that you can smell a cigarette when you're standing around and outside from the stores. I'm sure you can smell the cannabis, okay? And you pay so much in taxes for your cannabis shops, but you make a lot of profit. And you guys on the council, yeah, money's a big issue for you. Don't let it be, because it's the least important, and it's just gonna set a bad series of things happening. We want to be safe in our communities. We want a clean community. We don't want that hazy smoke that's always in the air, and we don't know what that's about either. And I appreciate you all for doing your jobs and being here for us. And please, don't let money be what makes this decision. We've all been there. We've all lost children. Cannabis is a starter drug, no doubt. Ask a nurse, ask a policeman, ask them how they have to give the miracle drug to these children so they can come back from their heroin or whatever they're on, okay? It's not fair. Don't let money do this. You guys don't have to do this. You do not. Please, save our citizens, save our city, and hold your head up high, and you won't be ashamed later on. You won't be sorry, because you're going to answer to God. You just remember that. He is the most important thing that you have to answer to, okay? Just keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Shannon Summers, and after Shannon is Vanessa Peak, I believe.
I'll go this way because I'm addressing everybody, not just council, and I'm a little short for this.
If you could turn this way because it's recorded, you have to address council.
Oh, all right, sorry.
It's okay.
Wanted to be talking to everybody in the room.
I know it's a bit odd having to stand with your back, but go ahead.
Have you not already noticed for the last few years now, people reeking of marijuana when they open the car door when you're at the gas station? Or you walk by some people in Walmart and you get a big whiff of it? We already have pot all over the city. Like it or not, it is here, and it's not going anywhere. You know, we are the third largest city in Michigan. We might as well be making that money off of it. You know, we approved it, as was said. It was already approved by a vote. There were already 60 applications. It's all over the place, and it's not going to go anywhere. If you don't like it, I apologize. There's lots of things in this world I don't like either, but they're here. We're not farmland. We don't have a whole lot of open space to put these places. They already proposed the ordinances to where they're very limited to where they can go. So we're not going to have a pot store open up between Lefty's Cheesesteak and the nail salon. It's not going to be something you're going to drive by with your kids every day. Apologize, I lost my spot here. You know, if you're so concerned with drug use in Warren, you know, we need to protect and grow state and county social programs. We need to get good social programs going on in here. Let's house our homeless. Let's provide mental health care to people, aid to people, so that they don't turn to crime and they don't turn to drugs. You know, we've got people hanging around what we call the Red Meth Inn, or, you know, heroin needles dropped all over in our streets. So, you know, you've got the wrong villain here. We've got bigger issues when it comes to drug use. You know, allowing a couple of stores to sell when we already have it a couple of miles away in a grow facility isn't going to keep pot out because it's already here. You know, as far as the crime, they've got much better security in dispensaries than the CVS and 7-Eleven, who have alcohol and tobacco and get robbed every week. Those things are much bigger health and addiction concerns than marijuana is. You know, if you want to live in pious country, go live west of Jackson. This is the Motor City. People here work hard their whole lives. They deserve a natural form of pain relief. They deserve to have a good time here and there as long as they're 21 or older. You know, we don't have space for a marijuana mall and these ridiculous flyers. As Councilman Schroeder already said, this isn't going to be unlimited. We're not going to have, like I said, they're not going to be popping up all over the place next to McDonald's. This proposal here is more strict than what Michigan state laws are.
You're at time. Thank you. Next is Vanessa Peak and then Michelle Chivers.
Good evening, Council. I am a resident of the Farwell area of Detroit, District 3. We abut Warren, the city of Warren. My community is proliferated with marijuana dispensaries. As a result, my community is no longer attractive to home ownership or businesses that can offer residents gainful employment with transferable skills. The proliferation of marijuana dispensaries in my community has made it attractive to slumlords, companies that pollute, and increase in individuals seeking to engage in criminal activity. I've admired the strength of the city of Warren. You've graciously survived the recession dating back to 2008, which included the loss of automotive jobs, predatory lending, and the mortgage foreclosure crisis. I take people on a tour of the Farwell area of District 3, City of Detroit, and I show them the devastation, and I compare and say, let's go over to the city of Warren, right across 8 Mile. Let me show you the comeback of Warren. And, you know, and how you've managed to survive. I can't tell you what to do, but I forewarn you, allowing unlimited number of marijuana dispensaries in the city of Warren will put both residents and the police at heightened safety risks and attract people with criminal intent. I look at, when I drive through your community, I'm looking at the new roads, I look at the Myers. I'm saying to the people we elect in the city of Detroit, we're doing something wrong. How is it that Warren you've gone through the same thing in terms of the recession, but you're on a comeback. I look at the Home Depot that exists. It's about, when we look at what's happening in the United States and the government is saying, you know, we want qualified employees. We want people to exemplify that they're looking for work. These corporations are not going to tell you that, hey, you know what, we don't like the fact that you're allowing people proliferating marijuana in your community. They just won't come to your community. I'm pleading and begging, don't be like Detroit. You know, I cannot begin to tell you that situation that I saw on TV last night could have been very devastating for police. What we're going through right now, our insurance rates, the crime, you wake up in the morning, you don't want that in your city. You are primed and poised to attract corporations that will provide your residents with gainful employment, transferable skills. Build on that foundation.
You're at time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Michelle Chivers. Michelle Chivers. Nicholas Bachand.
Good evening, Council. As a single mom, I've been in Warren my whole life. Lived in Roseville for a little while. Lived next door to somebody that wanted to grow marijuana out of their home. My kids and I would wake up and go to bed, high as a kite. Headaches, sicker than a dog from the marijuana smell. You cannot go into grocery stores. It's summertime. I do not enjoy going shopping. I don't enjoy going outside or doing things anymore for the reason of I don't like the smell of marijuana. Where's our rights? Where's our freedom of free smell to not have to live with marijuana smell? It's a gateway to the devil's drug, is in my opinion. And I hear snickers behind me, but it's true. Marijuana is a drug. It is not good for the community with kids and everything. I hear, oh, packaging, oh, safety for the children. They can't get into it. I'll tell you what, kids nowadays are a lot smarter than us adults because kids can get into anything that they want to get into. Kids will take the gummy or the joint laying on mom and dad's table because they purchased it from a grow-op, a store, one of these pot shops that want to come up in our communities. Who's to say down the road, unlimited, they don't want to come and decide to come in our communities next to our homes, next to the schools, next to our churches. It isn't right. How is it protecting our freedom for the residents, for the communities that don't want the drugs in our neighborhoods? Where's our freedom? Everybody's worried about somebody that wants to have marijuana because, oh, I want to smoke a joint and get high as a kite and get munchies. Where's our rights? As far as I'm concerned, this marijuana stuff should have never been legalized. Where's our rights as what should have been the minority of not wanting drugs in our communities? You know, what's not going to happen? Oh, yeah, let's start selling heroin. Let's start having heroin stores, you know, and things like that. As a parent that doesn't want it in our communities.
I'm sorry, you're at time.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Please do the right thing.
Thank you.
Please.
Next is Nicholas Bashand and then Joel Vanderlinden.
My name is Nick Bashand, and I love Warren. I've been coming to Warren since I was born. I used to swim in a swimming pool on Melva when I was a little kid. And you got one of the finest education systems for community college right at 12 and Hayes. It's called Macomb Community College. And I used to admire the education system there. And then I used to go over to Cavans, and I'd have a hamburger and some onion rings. But guess what? Cavans is a dispensary. You have marijuana. It's not going anywhere, and it's in the city of Warren. Sorry, I didn't bring it here, they didn't bring it here, and you didn't bring it here. But it's here. It's in Centerline, it's in Hazel Park, it's in Detroit, and it's in Roseville. And it can all come to Warren. So either A, you opt in and do what the council's telling you to do to avoid litigation, to stop the money bleed, and to make some money, or B, you do nothing. I love Warren, and I'm not in the marijuana industry. I'm just listening. And I really enjoyed those onion rings back at Cabanas, and I wish it was still here, but it's not. I can get my pot there. And I have two girls. They're 6 and 9, and they go to the Great Skate, 500 feet from the Mint at the Cannabis in Roseville. Did I cause that? Nope, you didn't either. They didn't either, but it's here. It's not going anywhere, people. So we could either A, do nothing, spend money, be in litigation, and I am an attorney and I know we're going to spend money. Or we can solve this problem. You elected these people. They're good people. They know what they're doing. They've researched it. Listen to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vanderlinden, you're next. After Mr. Vanderlinden looks like Romy Kerma. Rami Kurma, not 100% positive.
Joel Vanderlyn, longtime Warren resident. I hear the people. The question is, does the council? Is the council really listening, or are they having their fourth meal again? Are they just rolling their eyes and blowing us off? The question seems to be, with a lot of people, money. Well, let's talk about the money. All this money that we're supposed to get from all these marijuana places, we don't have the police officers to protect us, let alone these places. We don't have the zoning inspectors to do all the zoning work which is needed, and all this falls upon Mayor Stone not doing her job. Can we trust Mayor Stone with all these facilities? Better yet, can we count on the council to make the right decision? My recommendation for all you citizens here is to take notice. Who votes yes, who votes no? And then go onto the web under Macomb County Clerk's office, check the election stuff, and check the who received how much money from the marijuana companies. And oh, that's where the money really comes in, because some of these council people got a lot of money from the marijuana people. Some of these atheist socialists are already bought and paid for. Their money bought their soul for the mayor's gold and getting on this council to do the atheist work and not God's work. Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Thank you. Next is Romy or Rami. Can you pronounce your name and give us your address for the record?
Yes, absolutely. It's Rami Kurma. Just want to thank everybody here for attending, city council members and everybody behind me.
Your address, sir. Your address.
55575 Timbers Edge Drive in Shelby Township, Michigan. I just want to let everybody here know that I grew up in the city of Warren. I went to Pearline Elementary School, Beer Middle School, and a proud Marauder, graduated from Warren Mott High School. After I graduated, I attended Macomb Community College here in Warren. After that, I opened a property investment company, and I own 15 residential properties in Warren today. I want to educate everybody on this matter going on today. The problem is the city already approved dispensaries back in 2019. This isn't about approving or not approving. This is about settling a matter that already exists. I followed a fair process at that time and applied for a license. Requirements were to be fully integrated, which meant you had to obtain a grow license, a processing license, and a retail license to get a dispensary. That cost a lot of money to do. I followed the ordinance, tied up multiple commercial properties. I paid triple and quadruple the amount of value for these properties. I had these contingent on approval. The city approved us and published 15 people that got licenses. I was one of the 15. I had my properties contingent upon approval, and I didn't have to pay for them until I got the approval. So once I got the approval from the city, I had to go dish out millions of dollars of hard-earned money for these properties, only for them to get vetoed. Since then, I have been battling and trying to figure out what's going to happen with this whole situation. The city approved us. I closed on all these properties. I applied to the city in February 14, 2019. The buildings remained empty through the litigation and I've been paying the mortgages on them since. I couldn't do anything with them because no longer have a license, and nobody wanted to come occupy my empty buildings with me one day telling them you have to leave because now I got my license. Since then, I have already lost a couple of my properties that I've already paid a lot of money for, and I can no longer make payments on the remaining properties that I have, and I'm in the process of forfeiture. Although I applaud the city for trying to come to a resolution, it isn't fair to make it unlimited to everybody today after I have tried for years to hold on and follow the process the city laid out. This isn't a fair settlement. The people that have been patient and spent millions for years after getting a published approval from the city. The settlement reached should benefit the people that have followed fair process laid out by our Warren governing body. Lastly, I want to say marijuana is medicinal. It saved my neighbor's life, and that's what got me into it. Over-the-counter drugs and pills that harm your body are what lead people to heroin and other harmful drugs. Everything can lead to harm if not used in the right intentions, just like liquor, and I bet everybody behind me here has had a drink or two in their life. I pray everyone here gets more educated on what's really happening in this matter and doesn't let people like me that have spent millions in this process get hurt in this process. If anybody should be allowed to get a license and move their properties and whatnot, it should be the people that have been in this process the entire time and spent all this money.
You're at time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is the end of audience. We are going to, oh, yeah, sure. Mr. Schroeder, go ahead.
I really sympathize with the last speaker. And there's a lot of folks like him who did spend a lot of money in the city and applied, and then the court took away their license. He got a raw deal, there's no doubt. I completely agree with you. I don't think we've ever met. I just want to let you know in 2022, the prior council, but not the prior council that caused this, so the council in between voted to settle this case, to give the 15 their license. We came to a settlement agreement, and the other 15 got upset, went back to court, and the court once again canceled those 15 licenses. So I think that for these folks who spent a lot of money in the city, invested a lot, based on a process that was very flawed, there have been attempts to try to do that, and it was stricken by the courts. So unfortunately, that's part of the history of how we got here, but I certainly sympathize with those folks who have spent a lot of money and really made an investment, and it didn't work out, and it was the court and the other parties who brought this lawsuit. So again, a lot of headaches here over the years.
Thank you. That is the end of audience. We will be moving on to announcements.
The next announcement is 9B, Certificate of Appreciation for Charles Williams. Madam Chair, I believe Mr. Lafferty requested this. I don't know if he's here or not.
Is Mr. Williams still here? There he is. Please join me at the podium. Good evening, everyone. This is a follow-up presentation to Mr. Charles Williams. We honored him 2 weeks ago and did not have a resolution ready for him. So in honor, a certificate of recognition for Mr. Charles Williams, who is a staunch supporter of the Warren Police Department, an inventor and entrepreneur. He uses his innovative and mechanical capabilities to develop mobility options for policing and shares his industry knowledge through mentorship and advocacy of vocational training with the youth. Mr. Williams' most recent efforts have led to him being recognized at the 2025 Detroit, Michigan Autorama. The Warren City Council extends their congratulations and appreciation for his dedication to our community. This dated March 25th, 2025. And my neighbor.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Support. Okay. Next item, announcement. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next announcement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'd like to give just a couple of updates on some things that Council's been involved in. Today, we had our first meeting of the Land Bank. The director, Joe Rivet, came and gave a presentation and outlined to the members exactly what a land bank can do, some of our options going forward. So it was very informative. That was only our second meeting. Also, we had a meeting today of the Charter Review Subcommittee, and last week, I think it was last week or the week before, or meeting before, we approved putting a ballot, something on the ballot for a special election this year. And since the city is already doing a special election, we have the opportunity to put issues relating to the charter on there, and it wouldn't cost any more money for us to do that. And we're discussing several issues. One is interim appointments, communications, and appointment eligibility under 4.3C, which we've been in that area a lot. So, and also, the city received approximately $27 million from the American Rescue Plan. And from the outset, the City Council was committed to setting aside a portion of those funds to support homeowners. Our goal was to provide home repair assistance based on economic need while also developing a plan to promote home ownership within the city. During the 24-25 budget approval process, the City Council took bold and innovative action by allocating $5 million for this initiative. Subsequently, the list of ARPA projects was modified and the ARPA funds were reallocated, but $5 million from the general fund was allocated for this project. In the fall of 2024, Councilman Lafferty and I began researching potential strategies, which led to a meeting with executives and subject matter experts at Huntington Bank. This initial discussion paved the way for further meetings between the administration, council members, and I believe the mayor brought you in at that time, also, Ms. Rogensee, and external experts. The administration has been highly cooperative in this process, and we are so appreciative of that. These meetings have been ongoing for several months. While no final plan has been established yet, we are in the final stages and expect to announce the details later this year. With budget hearings scheduled for next month, just wanted to take this opportunity to update the public on this important initiative. Also, the Warren Symphony is having a concert March 30th at 3 o'clock. It's going to be at Fitzgerald High School Auditorium, and it's featuring Mendelssohn Violin Concerto, which I'm very excited to go. We hope you'll join us. You can go on the Symphony website to order tickets, WarrenSymphonyOrchestra.com. Also, I have some sad news to share. Chuck Earl passed away on March 17th at the age of 79. He was born in Warren, grew up in Warren. He attended St. Anne's School. He graduated from Warren High, which is where we are at the moment. He went on to earn a degree at Eastern Michigan University and became a lawyer after attending the Detroit College of Law. He then joined his father in establishing the Earl & Earl Law Firm, which was later Earl & Rose in Warren. Many of you are probably familiar with it, on the corner of Chicago Road and Mound Road. Over the course of 51 years, Chuck built a distinguished career as an attorney. He specialized in zoning, estate planning, and transactional law. He was also very committed to this community. He served on the board of the Warren YMCA and as a longtime member of the Downtown Development Authority. We send our sincere condolences to his family. We're so appreciative of the years he gave to Warren, serving the residents. And if we could have a moment of silence. Thank you. Another Warren resident passed away this week. Dennis Fergal. Dennis Fergal was the husband of Judy Fergal, who served on the Fitzgerald School Board for many years. She's still on the school board, I think, right? And she served on our ZBA for many, many years. She was very knowledgeable. She taught a lot of people a lot of things about zoning. And we send our sincere condolences to the Fergal family. A moment of silence for Dennis Fergal. Thank you. And Bruce Anthony Furwa passed away March 22nd. He graduated from Cosno High School, and he served as a fireman in Warren for 25 years. We were so appreciative of his service. I got to know him in my first term on council. Our sincere condolences to his family, and thank him for his many, many years of serving our residents. Moment of silence for Mr. Furwa, please. Thank you. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Okay. Next item.
Next item is a public hearing, proposed resolution to approve Second Amendment to the Brownfield Development Plan, Warren Transmission Development Project, 23500 Mound Road, developer NP Mound Road Industrial LLC. I believe Attorney Jared Belka is here, and Mark Kniechnek, corporate rep.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. We have before you a request for an amendment to the existing brownfield plan that was previously approved for the former Warren Transmission Plant site at North Point Development.
Excuse me, sir, could you please speak into the microphone?
Sorry. That better? Yes, we have a request before you to amend the existing brownfield plan for the former Warren Transmission site that North Point Development acquired and has completed 2 of the proposed 4 buildings at the site. I will hand it off to Mark to give a little background on the project, and I will touch on the specifics of the amendment request.
Thanks, Jared. My name is Mark Kniechnek. I'm with North Point Development. We're the development at the property at 9 Mile and Mound Road. We have a phase 1 and phase 2. You may be familiar with phase 1 of our development. We've got about 660,000 square feet, and we've attracted businesses like Logos Logistics, Marlowe Beauty, the Home Depot that many of you have probably seen over on 9 Mile and Mound Road. This amendment allows us to really kickstart and attract more tenants for phase 2. We're looking to develop somewhere around 760,000 square feet, and this allows us to kind of tap into especially some DTE power costs that allow us to bring more tenants and more businesses to the area. So I'm the development manager on the side of things. I can touch on development and construction, but I'll turn it back over to Jared to explain a little bit more.
So the request before you, we are seeking to add some additional costs to cover the electrical substation that Mark had referenced. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm sorry, I'm trying to squat down here. That cost is about $5.5 million. Again, also we are seeking to shift the start date for the brownfield TIF. The demolition took a lot longer. They had run into some unanticipated subsurface materials that it just took a lot longer, so there really was no TIF generated, what we had originally hoped for from the commencement of the development. Overall, they anticipate completion of the park probably by about 2028. That would be the additional buildings that Mark referenced. Total anticipated investment, we had originally earmarked around $180 million. It's now about $210. So the North Point team has a developed track record of redeveloping challenging sites like this, one that stood vacant for quite some time until the North Point team came forward. So we're here, we're happy to answer any questions about this request, but we do appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. If you could hang out nearby, we'll open the public hearing and council may have some questions. Thank you. I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak on the matter? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and turn it over to council for action.
Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty with discussion.
Discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Belka and Mr. Knieks-Connect. If you could please come back up to the microphone. And we've been following the development for the last couple of years since the original phase was proposed and the original TIF was established. With this substation, what types of businesses, because these are spec buildings initially, and what kind of tenants are you looking to attract here?
Yeah, so we built spec on building one. We built the Home Depot was more of a spec to suit. We're open to a variety of different tenants, whether it's a build to suit opportunity or a speculative development. We didn't have a whole lot of activity in 2024, nor did the industry as a whole. We're happy to say we've had a lot of activity in 2025. We haven't locked any tenants in now, but we certainly think there's going to be a spec to suit or build to suit opportunity. This allows us to really attract more users with higher power capacity, anything from manufacturing. Like I mentioned, we have Logos Logistics companies, Marlowe Beauty, Home Depot, really reputable companies that we can bring to the area. This just allows us another way of attracting more businesses with more unique needs to the site.
It sounds exciting. I'm hoping for high-tech, automotive, biomechanicals. The possibilities seem endless based on the specs that you're talking about and the investment you're making into the infrastructure. I drive by often to check progress, meet with Mr. Sweeney from time to time, keep up on the project. So no issues here. And looking at the schedule, I'll do the math later, but we're only increasing the reimbursement for 2 years, 2 additional years.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. I have no other questions. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 11A, request of M3 LLC located at 2029 Riggs Avenue for a 60-day extension of adult use license and medical marijuana licenses. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion? From what I can tell, they're delinquent on their water and their taxes.
BSNA is down right now. I just tried to check. So there's no way for us to check at the moment if they're down or not.
Excuse me, I can't hear you.
I just commented that BSNA is down, not just Warren, but other communities. So there's no way to confirm at this moment if they're delinquent or not.
I checked this morning.
Right?
Yeah.
But it could have been this afternoon, they could have paid.
Yeah.
But we could do
Yeah.
contingent.
Yeah, contingent approval works for me.
Yeah, contingent on them paying their, whatever default they are in the city, they have to remedy that before we grant the extension. Does that work?
I'll agree with that.
You maker to the motion?
Yep.
Thank you.
Without objection.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 11B, request of Mask Enterprise LLC located at 23500 Amber Avenue for a 60-day extension of MRTMA adult use license. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 11C, request of the Planning Commission to approve the amended Planning Department fee schedule, consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved.
Support.
Support Mr. Noonan. Discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Oh, I missed Mr. Noonan.
I think you better call me at some point.
Yes, Mr. Noonan.
Yeah, sure.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Brogan C. is a yes. Thank you. Next item.
Next item is 12A, an ordinance to amend Chapter 19.5 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Marijuana, Michigan Medical Marijuana Act Operations, Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act Establishments, Personal Recreational Marijuana Adult Use, and Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act Facilities. Second reading. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty with discussion.
Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. This item was approved on a first reading at our last meeting. Several proposed changes are being suggested, and I would like to read those, if I may, now. Revised section 19.5-16D1 on page 15. The city will issue an administratively approved municipal license to the applicant if the applicant satisfies and complies with all requirements referenced in this chapter, including but not limited to section 19.5-16C and the city's zoning ordinance, and after the applicant obtains all necessary approvals as detailed in this chapter, pays a non-refundable license fee, and obtains a certificate of compliance. The license certificate issued by the city must be signed by the city's building director and the city's chief zoning inspector. 2, change the second section 19.5-16D to section 19.5-16E on page 15. 3, replace, quote, building division, close quote, with, quote, building department, close quote, in sections 19.5-16E3 and E4. 4, in section 19.5-16G1A on page 16, add of filing of the application after 180 days. 5, revised section 19.5-16H1A on page 17. A license applicant may appeal an administrative ruling denying, revoking, or not renewing a municipal license. If the reason for the denial, revocation, or non-renewal is a violation of the Michigan Construction Code or Michigan Building Code, the applicant's sole and exclusive remedy is to file an appeal with the building department within 14 days of the city's denial, revocation, or non-renewal of the municipal license, which shall be heard by the city's Construction Board of Appeals within 30 days of the filed appeal. For all other reasons being appealed, the applicant must submit a written request for an appeal hearing to City Council within 14 days of the city's denial, revocation, or non-renewal of the municipal license. 6, revised section 19.5-16J1 on page 18, within 10 days of a change in operation that would materially alter any answer to a question on the municipal license application or renewal application, the licensee shall provide written notice of such change to the city's building department. The building department may require a written notice form or a new application depending on the circumstances. 7, delete section 19.5-16J2, 3, 4 on pages 18 and 19. 8, delete section 19.5-16K3 on page 19. Madam Chair, Mr. Schroeder, could you explain the procedure, what happens from this point? If a resolution is approved, what the next steps are? Never mind. This change, it gets, never mind.
Okay, I didn't understand the question.
Yeah.
What happens is these proposed changes go to the city legal department, and actually the legal department was involved in that document that you read. The legal department signed off on it. The legal department met with public service and, confirmed that these are appropriate. This would go back to the attorney's office. They would draft a final version, which would then go to the clerk, and then the clerk would publish the ordinance as is, with these changes, which is why we have 2 readings, so changes can be made.
Any other discussion, Ms. Moore? Mr. Lafferty, discussion?
No,
Oh, I thought you said discussion. No?
I might have said it out of force, I haven't.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
No.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
So I'm gonna have a little preamble here. This conversation has turned into.
We're not at discussion.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Noonan?
All right.
Yes
Just
or
no.
No? Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries 5-2.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item is 12B, Council Secretary Mindy Moore, discussion in Ray, resident notifications regarding water shutoff, street sweeping, et cetera. Motion to approve a discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I received a phone call maybe 2 weeks ago. I often get phone calls regarding residents complaining that they're not notified of water shutoffs, and street sweeping and things like that. And I understand their frustration often, and they have questions about how the quality of their water and things like that. And we have a notification system, and I think we should be using it for those purposes going forward if we could. Because that's what residents, that's what they complain the most about, not being notified, not knowing what's going on, not knowing what the rules. And I think if we can use the notification system to let them know, hey, we're gonna be street sweeping this week, and then, or this day, then people know to remove their cars if they want their street cleaned. Otherwise, everybody's cars are there and they have to go around, and, makes it harder for our workers, actually. So I would just request that the Public Service Department come up with a process of maybe incorporating that into their work orders and working with I think the Communications Department maybe puts out the physically the notifications, if maybe we could figure out something along those lines. So my request would be that we just send a request to Public Service, that they could look into this.
Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Madam Chair, we need to go back to 12A1 that I skipped.
Okay, 12A1.
Yes, a fee schedule authorizing $5,000.
Amendment to the existing fee schedule to add a $5,000 fee for adult use retailers.
What he said. Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 12C, Council Secretary Mindy Moore, discussion and rate DTE energy rebates available for new fire stations. Motion to approve for discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had originally put this on the agenda. We have information that we could get some rebates related to building the new fire stations from DTE. I had a discussion with the fire commissioner just before, maybe even when we were in the meeting, he was texting me, and we have worked this out, so we can just skip.
Receive and file?
Yes, receive and file.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next item.
Next item, consideration of the recommendation of the towing subcommittee to establish the police towing list. Motion to approve with discussion.
Support Dwyer.
Thank you. Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. This afternoon, the towing committee met, Mr. Dwyer and I, and the we did a review of the towing list recommendation. Those recommended towing companies are Able Towing, Bill's Towing, Ellis Brothers Towing, M&D Towing, Official Towing, and Service Towing. And it is our recommendation of the committee that this council approve those companies.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 13A, which was tabled March 11th, 2025. Proposed resolution providing public notice of intent to sell vacant tax reverted properties at 11203 and 11211 Rivard, Warren, Michigan. Parcel ID numbers 1334-454-012 and 1334-454-013 for $1,000, which is $500 each, approving sale following 30-day notice period and accepting grant of easement rights, consideration and adoption of a resolution. A motion to remove from the table.
Support to remove from the table.
Call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C. is yes. Item is removed from the table.
Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Thank you. I had some discussion. If you can come up to the microphone, sir. So I'm the one who tabled this item because we have no problem with you using the property, purchasing the property. It's just that we're very much criticized, and I don't believe in giving property for a very, very low dollar. So we're happy to, I think, approve this item in the future, but we would want you to renegotiate with the administration. Yeah.
Just for the record, is it okay, Madam
Yeah.
Chair? I did review this. I'm satisfied with this
Okay.
because it was actually bid out,
Okay.
right? Did
Yes.
you bid on this?
Yes.
Okay, he bid on it. It was an open bid. This was the best bid, as opposed to other situations where there's not a bid and there's this price that wasn't put out to the market.
Thank you.
So I
for
just
that
wanted to
additional
clarify that, so.
clarification. Okay, then I am satisfied.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item is 13B, request of the Police Department for an increase in budgeted revenues and appropriations in the amount of $50,000 to account for the receipt of additional Public Act 302 training funds received from the state of Michigan, consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved. 5 votes are needed for this.
Support Dwyer.
Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 13C, request of the Police Department for an increase in budgeted appropriations in the amount of $132,082 to cover the costs to purchase a Faro laser scanner to replace an inoperable Trimble digital measurement system through ZNet Tech LLC, consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved.
Support Dwyer.
With discussion.
Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that they were originally going to wait until the budget time, but this, our current Trimble device is breaking, and it's like $20,000–$30,000 to fix them. A month or so ago, I was listening, monitoring a police situation, and we didn't have, our Trimble was broken, and they had to get one from the county, or I think we borrowed them from Sterling Heights. So this is needed for accident investigation, I would certainly be in favor of this.
Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is request of the police department to purchase Faro crime scene mapping scanners and associated equipment utilizing the general services administrative contract in the total amount of $132,082. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved.
Support Dwyer.
Discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is G, request to extend moratorium on implementing Warren Code of Ordinances 2-401 at SEC. Motion to approve with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. The responsible contracting ordinance was initially adopted without input from the city's purchasing agent because, quite simply, the former mayor prevented the council from consulting with the administrative staff. After its adoption, the ordinance was supposed to be published, but that process was delayed for months. And then finally, a mass publication took place in the fall of 2023. Once this ordinance was finally published, the new administration requested a moratorium on its implementation, which the council approved. That moratorium expired at the end of December 2024. I have recently had some of the labor unions reach out to me inquiring about the status of this ordinance. When I spoke with the purchasing agent last week, I suggested a meeting with labor representatives, only to be informed that such a meeting had taken place maybe a year ago, but a very long time ago. The cover letter for this request states that the administration has been working with council members. I was not included in those discussions, so I'm not really sure why progress has stalled over the past year. I would urge all parties, though, to approach this with an open mind, recognizing that some compromise will be necessary, particularly considering that Craig Treppa, our purchasing agent, is essentially a one-man department. I'm willing to approve the requested 3-month moratorium, but this ordinance needs to be finalized in some way. Reading the actual resolution, I probably should ask Mr. Schroeder to look at it as well. Really, all we have to do is approve the resolution, but there's a long recitation in this resolution that I think is not necessary. It's giving background. It's not really something that, I don't know why all this editorializing is in this resolution. It makes no sense to me. I would suggest that we delete from beginning with on February 14 through the bottom of the page, bids for city projects, and just leave it at, therefore it is resolved that the Warren City Council adopts a 6-month interim moratorium on the enforcement of Warren Code of Ordinances 2-401 at SEC, and, you know, the rest of this. I think this, I don't know why this editorializing is in there, but.
Madam Chair, to answer the Council Secretary's question, there was an original moratorium adopted by the Council. That moratorium was not in the backup, okay? So what I would suggest is, and it would be just as legally effective, in my opinion, is if you want to extend it 3 months, make a motion to extend the original, moratorium by 3 months. If that original moratorium included some of that preamble language, it's fine. I think you still achieve what you want by extending the original moratorium by a simple motion to extend by 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is.
I would suggest 3 months, but, you know,
It's almost finished. I can talk about it.
What was it last Monday? Not even close. So. I think we should try 3 months, and if for some reason it doesn't, I think it's good faith on our part that we say 3 months, not 6 months. A lot of people are waiting for this. We have a lot of things happening, and we need to do something that is fair for all parties going forward. So I would say 3 months at this point. We can always look at it. We shouldn't have moratoriums that last more than 6 months ever, and now this is going to be, once again, a long time. So I would say 3 months, and incorporating what Mr. Schroeder said.
I just will note, I've been working with the legal department, purchasing, and Tina Gapshis in engineering over the past year, going over and trying to find the best solutions to honor the spirit of the ordinance while also not overburdening Craig. There are a gazillion things that we've researched from MDOT's process. Ms. Gapshis has reached out to other communities to inquire about their ordinances, to understand how it would increase the cost of roads. And so we are working on it, slow process, but it is being worked on, and hopefully in the very near future, there'll be something that can be presented that honors the spirit of the original ordinance without creating a ton of administrative burden for the departments.
I'm the one that gets yelled at it, because I get calls like, I'm the secretary, I put it on the agenda, why isn't it done? So I'm taking the heat from a lot of organizations, so.
Any other discussion?
I'm curious, would Mr. Schroeder be possibly of any assistance in that matter, of figuring it out?
He would review the final draft.
Oh, that's
that
already
folks
part
have-
of it, so.
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
that he's,
how about, would Mr. Schroeder care to hazard a guess as to whether 3 months or 6 months is the better time to figure this out?
I could do it in 3 weeks, but it's not just up to me. There's a whole process, there's a whole committee here.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm not privy to this, and that's fine, that's great. The council put this out originally, the council made a stand on responsible contracting.
Right.
When the city spends over 50,000, I mean, we're spending millions on fire stations, millions on building projects.
Right.
You wanna make sure these contractors are paying a prevailing wage, that they're responsible, that they don't have other issues. And I think it could be done in 3 months if it's a priority. Someone has to prioritize it. That's just life, and we all have a lot to do. Someone needs to make it a priority, and I know it's a priority of this council, so that's not the problem, so.
I'm in favor then probably of going with the Secretary's recommendation on this.
thank you.
So, Madam Chair? Just for clarification, essentially, the only item that is left in the resolution is the extension of the moratorium. So therefore, it is resolved the Warren City Council adopts a 3-month interim moratorium on the enforcement of the Warren Code of Ordinances 2-401 et sec.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes is amended.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes as amended.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 13H, proposed resolution awarding ITBW 1287 and authorizing mayor and clerk to execute the purchase and development agreement with Toco Custom Homes LLC for conveyance and renovation of 6 tax reverted properties. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 13I, consideration and adoption of a resolution approving the purchase of 7 2025 road rescue ambulance from DDA Construction Bond Fund proceeds. It's a bond resolution amendment.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I could not hear the.
Okay, it's the purchase of 7 2025 road rescue ambulance from DDA Construction Bond Fund proceeds, bond resolution amendment.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, motion to approve with discussion?
Support Lafferty.
Discussion, Ms. Moore.
I could explain it, but Mr. Fox is here, so he might want to do a better job.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of council, Richard Fox, City Controller. So what I'm trying to accomplish here is the construction fund for the 2 new fire stations. When the bonds were sold, we ended up getting a pretty large premium on the bonds. So at this point in time, there's monies available in the construction fund to pay for the fire trucks. And then what that does is frees up money in the bond issue that we did for the equipment for last year's budget. And so then I can have funding to pay for equipment that, an upcoming budget for police and fire and for DPW for major equipment purchases that they have. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Any additional questions, discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes?
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Yes.
Rogan C is a yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item is audience participation on general topic.
Members of the audience who would like to address City Council may do so by filling out an audience form on the left. I have a number of folks here. You have 3 minutes. If for folks that are new to council meeting, you can, if you spoke earlier, you can also speak during general audience. First up is Lori Harris. And after Lori is Joel Vanderlinden, who may have departed.
Well, this is a fine how do you do. I appreciate the people that did vote no, because at least people were listening, and I'm really sorry that it's come to this. And I didn't like you guys being threatened by a marijuana business owner, dispensary owner, which is what it sounded like, a little bit of bullying here, telling you that, you know, it's just gonna get worse if you do this. I sincerely do not believe that the city is staffed appropriately to manage just our the other 170 businesses. And it's clear, if people are coming here and saying they smell it all the time, it's clear they're not being handled appropriately. So I hope that you're, as a council, and I know all of you, and I'm sure that you all care about the residents, but you're gonna pay attention to where these shops go and how it affects the neighborhoods. And the worry that places are going to try to buy out businesses in the areas that are outlined on that map worries me, because then there'll be a collection of people in that area. If they don't make it, then we've got more empty space. I also wanted to mention that it's terribly disappointing. It's terribly disappointing. It's a real crime that we didn't have the ability of the public to be involved truly from the beginning. And none of you were involved in that. And I've already thanked the people that already made this mess for us. But that would have been a good start, to have the public actually be involved in what happens in our community, because 59% may have voted to pass a marijuana law, never expecting to have unlimited dispensaries and 170 other marijuana businesses in our city. So I am disappointed, and I'm sure a lot of people will be disappointed. I am looking forward to the land bank information. I thought that was fascinating and exciting, what we can look forward to and plan and do for our city. But this is a sad day. This is a sad night. And for a woman to cry about the loss of her child because of drugs, and you still passed it. So
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Next is Joel Vanderlinden.
Thank you. Joel Vanderlinden, longtime Warren resident.
I hope to have highlighted earlier to bring you to the needs of the people, not to the needs of the money. Money is the devil's tool. When you vote for the welfare of the small group instead of the need of the many, you're wrong. We don't have the police officers to protect the citizens, and yet you want to open up all these marijuana shops. We don't have the money for all the inspectors that we are short, but we're going to open the shops anyways and put it all on zoning. When I worked for the city of Warren, we had 6 people working in zoning that could take care of all these problems and stuff like that. Last I heard, there was 3. How are 3 people going to make all these necessary inspections and everything else? And all this money we get from the marijuana companies, where's it going to go? Are you going to put it in the police? You ain't hiring, why? Are you going to put it in our roads? Probably not. Are you going to put it towards more inspectors, more employees? Well, you're not filling the spots now. And some of you got upset that I brought up the Democratic Socialist Party. Well, that's what it's become. It's not the old Kennedy Democrats anymore. Most of them are gone. I miss them. Someone to be proud of. But when you have a Democratic Party who's willing to spend millions of dollars on people in prison that have sex changes, instead of protecting the people of their cities, the people of the country, that's where I draw the line. When I was a soldier, I grew up listening to Kill a Commie for Your Mommy. That socialism was the beginning of communism. And that is what the Democratic Party has become. And my proof of that is they want to take God off the dollar, out of the Pledge of Allegiance. They want to tell you to deny God, Jesus, and everything else.
Mr. Vanderlinden, you're at time.
And they want to tell you to kill your babies.
Thank you. Next is Joey D.
Good evening again, Council. I got a few things here I want to touch on because I'm not a regular like I used to be. So I got to get a bunch of things off my chest at one time. First and foremost, I want to know, where did they post the property that was up for bid? Because I never seen it. So we got ourselves out of one lawsuit, or partway out of one lawsuit. I should file a lawsuit against the city for selling that property, because I promise you it's worth more than $500. I've seen this city sell half pieces of property for $1,500, $2,000. That's just absurd. But it's not your guys' tax money. You don't care. The other thing is, you guys are getting ready to go over the ordinances. One of the things you need to do is you need to revamp this lowest qualified bidder ordinance, because the road construction in this city is worse than any place I've ever been in Michigan. Go take a ride up Ryan Road, the section from 9 to 10 Mile Road. The cement is horrible. Then they re-blacktop the section from 10 to 11 Mile. All the striping is almost all gone already. It hasn't been 6 months. I don't know where we're hiring these people from, but I mean, you could get high school kids to do a better job. And if it's a case of, you know, $3,000 difference, so they got to balance that out. Because just because somebody told you you know, you used to work for a construction company, that doesn't make you qualified. They need to start getting some more recommendations from other communities or something, because it's horrible. And then somebody mentioned the ARPA funds. We put in ARPA funds, and it was supposed to be to help homeowners with repairs and this and that. I had some problems this summer. I'm disabled. I was looking for somebody to help with some stuff around my house, mainly shoveling snow. I called the city, crickets. Finally, I called my county commissioner. He actually came and shoveled it himself. That's pretty sad when your own city offers no help for their seniors and their disabled people. Here we got $5 million that, oh, we shuffled it to somewhere else. But yet, we got tons and tons of money in the DDA that we can just spend it wherever we want to. I should say on whatever we want to. When all that money that supposedly is free could be going to the entire city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Michelle, you do not want to speak, right? Okay, thank you, just confirming. Wesley Arnold.
I'm running as fast as I can. Professor Wesley Arnold, 82-year resident. Warren City Council, I think, is our best city council that I've seen. Thank you for your service, especially tonight. Wow. It's almost over, and I'll be really short. I was going to report on what science says about marijuana with some emphasis on the reckless use by people, but I'm going to spare you that because you can look that up yourself. I did want to just comment, but what really scares me as an old timer, you're driving down the road, you put your window down, you can smell it, you see the guy in front of you blow the smoke out, you can smell it. And I've seen some of their driving, wow. And one of the facts is that a little too much, and it does impair driving. So that's what's really scary to me. Thank you all so much for your service, and especially tonight. I hope Aunt is okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That is the end of audience.
Next is council response to audience.
Anyone
May I approach the council? I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
you-
no.
you-
I did turn in my paper, so I do apologize for being so rude.
I
But
do not,
will speak. I would appreciate the time.
oh, hold on one second.
Thank you.
In the future, it has to be returned to the basket over this way.
I do apologize.
No worries. Go ahead, Vanita Palmieri.
Thank you, council. I guess I'm new to all of this, so I do apologize to you, but I would like to reintroduce myself because I hopefully will be able to be on a better level with you all. My name is Vanita Palmieri. I am a recovering alcoholic. I also am a grief counselor. I am also on a volunteer basis for drug and alcohol rehab. I was wondering if anybody on the council could tell me, since I'm looking forward to a positive reinforcement in the city of Warren, how many facilities we have available for counseling, for drugs, for alcohol, for homelessness, rehabilitations in the city of Warren.
Folks can't respond during audience. I'm the only one who can speak.
That's fine, I do greatly appreciate it. I just wanted to bring the question to the board. Secondly, I was Christian-based, brought to the city of Warren. I checked myself into the city of Warren. I was given great reception, and that's why I chose to stay. I chose to move to this city. It wasn't because of you council members. but I wanted you all to know that I'm not against cannabis in my city. What I am against is unlimited. I have a limited supply of Narcan. I have a limited supply of resources. I have a limited supply of friends, of family, of counsel, of taxpayers whose lives on a daily basis as an 8-year recovering alcoholic. A drug is a drug, an addiction is an addiction, whose lives I try to save on a daily basis when I ask the council for positive reinforcements. I'm not against cannabis. I have a son who uses cannabis for anxiety and a disorder, so he has a medical issue he uses it for. I wanted to understand the unlimited, the black sheep, the whatever we have, the cloud that is over us of the unlimited. I asked the question of, does the unlimited give the opportunity to drop this lawsuit? And those people who were on the lawsuit, if they were brought in to now apply for those relicensing, are they going to be first on the list? And I don't believe that question was addressed. Are they first on the list to come into our unlimited resources now so that this lawsuit will be null and void? I'm kind of confused on the unlimited question or cloud that we have over us as a recovering alcoholic and somebody who would like to bring positive resources and help for our homelessness,
You're
our
at time.
alcoholics, and our drugs. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. You can respond.
Yes, I can respond. We typically don't do this, but there's been a lot of confusion created by this unlimited language. And sometimes people who have access to a lot of money know they can manipulate how people think by repeating the same thing over and over. And in this particular case, I can give an example. Liquor licenses, beer, liquor, and wine in the city of Warren are limited. But I just checked tonight with the Liquor Control Commission, there's 202 liquor licenses in the city of Warren between the bars, the gas stations, the liquor stores, and so forth, pizzerias, restaurants, 202. It's limited. However, in this particular case, we are limiting by zoning. The reason we're doing this is because of the way the state law was written. We are essentially handcuffed by the way they wrote the state law about the way you limit a license and all the quagmire it gets us into. So it is absolutely limited. Even if every piece of green property on that map gets a marijuana license, it will not come anywhere near 202 liquor licenses. Nowhere near. So when you say limited and you say unlimited, you can play with the words all you want, but you have to drill down and look at the reality. The reality is that we're not going to have anywhere near 200. We're going to have anywhere near 100. We had a business up here tonight getting a brownfield exemption, and I looked on the map. It was a green property. I highly doubt they're out there marketing this for marijuana. They're looking for, no, I'm talking about the company that got the brownfield. So anyway, the point being, it is absolutely limited. We just can't put a hard number on that. The minute we put a hard number on that, we say 15, we got our butts kicked, we meaning the city, because of the actions of the prior council. You put a hard number on there, there's a whole set of rules that go into place. We're just trying to solve the problem and limit it as much as we can by the zoning. And if we reopen the zoning, that's what the council's not doing, it's not reopening the zoning and sending it back to the planning commission and let people start changing this map all over again. We're gonna stick with what was decided before, and there's gonna be an absolute limit to the number. So when someone says unlimited, it's absolutely not true. It's limited by the zoning there, limited by the distances, and like I said, the comparison to liquor is pretty good, and I think there was some other comment about the rehabilitation facilities. I think council has some plans on that. I don't know if...
Right, Madam Chair. First off, congratulations on your sobriety. This council is very concerned about offering help to people that need help in recovering. We have received opioid settlement funds, and they're just sitting in the bank. We have asked for the administration, we asked the prior administration we asked the current administration to put together a panel of experts so that we make the right decision on how to allocate those funds. That's not happened yet. We're sort of gonna have to take it on ourselves, we think, because we wanna make sure that we do the right thing. We're not gonna have these monies forever, and we want to affect as many Warren residents' lives as we can. So that's our goal. It's not easy, but we need to hear from the experts. None of us are experts. We've all had experience, I think, the effects of the opioid crisis. Certainly, most families have been affected, but we want to make the right decision. We're not getting that help right now, and probably we're going to have to set up our own little group and do some things. But we are very concerned about it, and once again, we're very happy that you're sober today.
Any other responses?
Madam President, through the chair.
Yep, Mr. Dwyer.
Yes, just to update about police staffing, we are still 25 officers down, and we are not currently advertising anywhere. So we're just crawling along. We've got 3 that have applied in the last hiring cycle. We have 4 that are being hired in early April, but then we got 2 officers that are retiring in June. So we're just not making a lot of progress here. Thank you.
Any other responses? I wanted to address the comment about lowest bidder. The responsible contracting ordinance that was discussed here in an effort is going to address some of the lowest bidder items and try to bring in contractors that aren't necessarily the lowest bidder but are the most responsible. And then additionally, a number of folks have talked about being taxpayers, and folks are taxpayers in the audience. I just want to remind everyone that we all live in the city. We all own homes in the city. We all are taxpayers as well. Most of us have been here for decades. Jonathan, I don't think, has ever left the city of Warren. He's lived here his whole life, and many of us have lived here for a very long time. Yes. And so we all care very deeply about the community and realize that people do not always agree with the decisions that we have to make, but that we're all very much invested in the success of the city. It's why we all serve our community in this capacity, because we want to be as helpful and make sure that we're making the best decisions possible. So I just want to remind everyone that we are your neighbors as well. So, any other responses?
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.